coming back. Welcome to the webinar, How do Social Enterprises and NGOs Survive and Thrive During the Pandemic, co-organized by Social Entrepreneur Meetup and HeartChat. I am Jessie, for those who didn't know me. I'm the organizer of Social Entrepreneur Meetup, and I'll be your co-host together with Vincent from HeartChat tonight. So very briefly, what Social Entrepreneur Meetup is about. We are a platform dedicated to connecting the social impact individuals, supporters, to join force tackling some pressing social issues. So Social Entrepreneur Meetup features monthly events. It used to be offline and now it's online, and our daily chat room. So currently we have more than 1,000 individuals in our community. That includes lots of social entrepreneurs, impact investors, NGO staff, corporate professionals, academics, students, and a lot more. And I would like to have my co-host Vincent also introduce about HeartChat. But very briefly, Vincent, you want to go ahead or you want me to do the introduction?
Oh, yeah. I'm okay though. So hi everyone. Very honored to have all of you here tonight. So I'll be the moderator for latest discussion. So basically I, with my team, have founded HeartChat, and I'm the team leader of HeartChat. So basically HeartChat is an online platform connecting professional counselors, therapists, and coaches with their clients. So with the aim of actually making professional counseling and coaching more accessible and affordable. So trying to make it more digitalized basically. So, and we are actually currently doing it both for individuals and also for corporate clients. So basically we are designing a thing called the Employee Wellness Program, tailor-made for corporate and organizations. So yeah, so that is what we do basically to make it more accessible and to, with the aim of actually embracing each other's mental diversity in the community. Yeah, thank you, Jessie.
Thank you very much, Vincent. So I want to explain why we want to organize this event at this very time. As you all know, we are in a crisis like no others, and lots of purpose-driven organizations, if not all, are facing huge tests of our ability to address the current challenges, adapt, and innovate. So similar to what we collect, the responses we collect through our survey, as CMP also reported in March, then almost 60% of the NGOs and social enterprises has their funding down by a third. And lots of organizations are closed as soon as they haven't got any cash flow in 2 months. So a group leader has taken action, and that includes our speaker, Angelyn, who are, lobbying the government and trying to get more funding to support the social enterprises and the charities. However, as individual organizations and ourselves, how can we cope the crisis being more adaptive and innovative? And more importantly, why this webinar is so different from any other webinar is because we're addressing the issues of the individuals who are purpose-driven. That means we're not only coping with our own organizational problem, we're also trying to deliver the services and the value to the society, non-stoppable and more sustainable. So in this webinar, we're very honored to have our 4 speakers tonight, and we're going to explore 4 basic questions. What are the challenges facing the NGOs, social enterprises, and purpose-driven organizations? And how do our speakers' organization respond to the crisis? What are the recommended resources and strategies to adapt and cope? And also, how do we keep innovating and even to turn a crisis into opportunities? So I would like to introduce also the game plan for tonight. So basically from 7:30 to 8:30, we'll have our panel discussion and, understanding more about like expert opinions on coping strategies. And then you have 15 minutes in a Q&A session. So throughout the panel discussion, if you have any questions, please send in the chat and hopefully our speaker can fully address them. But if not, we also have a follow-up, a forum, a chat group, basically, that your questions will be answered more specifically. And I'm very, very honored and happy to introduce our peer mentor tonight as well. So for those who have signed up to the peer mentor session, you'll be able to meet the mentors and with domain expertise in different areas. So I'd like to give a huge gratitude and thank you to those who are attending as a peer mentor, that including Jeff from Impact Hong Kong, Benita from Encompass Hong Kong, Warren from Good Lab, Angelyn from Asian Charity Services, and we have Diane from W Hub, Joe from Angel Hub, Albert from ImpactHK and Good Post, Dorothy from Dream Impact, Mark, our colleague at the Social Entrepreneur Meetup, and he's also a mentor at Lina University, Roy from Switch and Cole, and he's also working with us at a Social Entrepreneur Meetup, and me myself, and we have Shatman from Good Cities Foundation, and Vincent from HeartChat, and also the fellow HeartChat team members, including Dr. Adrian, Randy, and Minlock. So thank you so much again. We also want to show that in such a difficult time, we are in this together as a whole, as a community, and we have so much support in the fields that people want to do good more efficiently and together. So if you haven't signed up to the mentorship session, you'll be able to meet our mentor online after the webinar. But everybody will be able to access the first part of the webinar, which is the panel discussion. So this is pretty much our game plan for today. And so now I'm going to give the floor to Vincent to introduce our panelist, our speaker for tonight. And he'll be the moderator for the panel discussion. But do remember to send your questions if you have any, so that we can address it during the Q&A. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Jessie. So hi, everyone. Again, I'm Vincent. And so first of all, may I introduce the panelists and give a very warm welcome for all the esteemed and very respected panelists. So first of all, we have Angelyn, the Program Director from Asian Charity Services. So Asian Charity Services is a Hong Kong registered NGO which affects change and raise standard and professionalism of SME in Hong Kong, non-profits organization in Hong Kong. And they have the aim to enable them to be more effective, efficient, and sustainable, with the common aim of serving the community together. As for the next speaker we have is Benita, the founder and CEO of Encompass Hong Kong. So more about Encompass Hong Kong. It is a social enterprise in Hong Kong which offers training and consulting in sustainable development goals. So which is commonly called the SDGs. And also D&I, which is diversity and inclusion. So their aim is to help alleviate some of these inequality problems in Hong Kong, also Asia. Next, we also have Jeff, the founder and CEO of Impact Hong Kong. So Impact Hong Kong is a Hong Kong registered NGO which believes in the importance of kindness in addressing the pressing problems of the homeless in Hong Kong. Jeff is also the founder of Love 21 Foundation, which is a charity dedicated to bettering the lives of those living with Down syndrome and autism in Hong Kong through physical activity and nutrition. And last but not least, we also have Warren, the CEO of the Good Lab, which is a think and do tank for social innovation in Hong Kong. So the Good Lab, as a social innovation consultant, they experience inclusive design amongst unusual allies and co-create with their clients and partners together game-changing ideas for the social and public sector. So now for the webinar today, the purpose of that is actually to get insight from these very experienced panelists regarding how we all together as a community, as social enterprises and NGO, how we can survive and thrive during this very, very hot time. So we are currently hit by the coronavirus and also its related economic slowdown. So what should we do? How should we keep ourselves financially stable? And how shall we deal with uncertainty while keep serving our target audience and maintaining our vision of our own organization? So we'll deal with it. So before I ask more questions to the panelists, I just want to let you know that for this webinar, it will only last for 2 hours. So it would not be perhaps too possible for us to come up with a practical hands-on solution game plan that will change the world within 2 hours. Instead, what we will do is to come together, know each other's problems, and we identify them together. And if time allows, then we'll have some high-level insights from experienced speakers. So Jesse and I will actually follow up with problems and provide a more structured way for each of us to engage with each other and to make something more exciting and more structured happen in the future. So in short, this webinar is just a start. So that's all for me. So let's each enjoy others' company. So may I now ask our panelists to maybe give a very brief introduction of themselves, both about their organizations and themselves personally. So maybe if I may ask Angelyn to give a brief introduction of yourself first. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you, Vincent. Thank you, Jesse, as well. My name is Angelyn Lim. I am the program director for an Ignite series of seminars at Asian Charity Services. As has been mentioned briefly, ACS is a capacity building NGO. We essentially provide pro bono management consultancy, leadership development, and growth workshops and seminars to fellow NGOs. And our motto is, we serve those who serve. ACS is 12 years old. In that time, we have served more than 600 NGOs. We have a network now of 1,600 NGOs. And we work together with professionals who are skill-based volunteers coming in from the corporate sector. And we have a network of 2,000 volunteers. So essentially, our role is to bridge NGO needs with expertise coming in from the corporate sector by way of the professional volunteers. Thanks.
Thanks, Angelyn. So may I please next invite Benita from Encompass Hong Kong to briefly introduce herself. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Benita. I come from a variety of background. I have worked with different NGOs, including Earthwatch, Youth Arc Foundation, which is a youth NGO, previously as a project director. My last job is at MWYO, which is a youth think tank, as a community engagement director. So 2 years ago, with all this experience I decided to start my own social enterprise, Encompass. We promote the sustainable development goals. As Vincent said, there are a set of UN goals, and there's a few focus. One is wellness, which is what we all very need right now. So we have done some music therapy program for those who are stressed. We have done singing bowl, and I also do gender diversity training and responsible consumption. So other than this main job, I also have different roles. I am also a scuba diving instructor, and I'm also a tour guide for LGBT tour. And I will share more this in the panel discussion later. I think having multiple careers at this age is beneficial because you have options doing different things when things go rough. So I'll talk more about that later.
Thanks a lot, Benita. So next, can I please ask Jeff from Impact Hong Kong and also Love 21 Foundation to briefly introduce himself. Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Great, thanks. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here with you this evening. It's a very cool event. I came to Hong Kong 14 years ago as an English teacher. So I taught in a public primary school here. And during that time, I kind of fell in love with doing charity work. And now I'm the founder and CEO of 2 different NGOs, both registered in Hong Kong. One is Love 21 Foundation, which works with the Down syndrome and autistic community in sport and nutrition. And that has we have about 70 members, 70 families that we support there, with about 35 classes per week in sport, but also have a holistic program which accompanies that sport class with nutrition and a real family element, which is a really cool charity. Also ImpactHK, which is a lot more well-known, working with the homeless in Hong Kong. Also a holistic program, understanding that housing does not solve homelessness, really having a real holistic program with mentorship, counseling, and sport classes, art classes, and really friendship and community is really our top priority, and that's why I think we're finding success off the streets. Yeah, it's great to be here with you, and I look forward to a really cool discussion.
Great, amazing. Thanks, Jeff. So last but not least, may I ask Warren to give an introduction of himself and also the Good Lab. Thanks.
Hi, thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Vincent, for having me today. Thank you for the opportunity to be here to share my perspectives. I'm Warren Look from Good Lab Foundation. So Good Lab is a non-profit social innovation consultancy based in Hong Kong. We used to be a co-working space in Cheung Sha Wan, but we've been transforming ourselves from a co-working space for social enterprises and NGOs to now focusing on providing social innovation, consultancy, and training services for partners in the social and public sectors. We typically work in areas, for example, youth empowerment, community building, education innovation, and service innovation. But essentially, we move from a physical space to more about working with our partners in the social and public sector to actually design and deliver social innovation in Hong Kong and facilitate that process. So that's what GoodLab is doing right now. On a personal level, I spent a couple of years as a management consultant before I joined GoodLab about 3 years ago. And on top of my kind of a daily job, I'm a lover of musical production as well as a cappella. So I tend to basically go on stage and perform and sing in extra time as well. And that's pretty much my hobby and what gives me energy to do my day job in social innovation. And I really look forward, in the next 2 hours to be sharing some of the things that I've been thinking. But I guess, at the end of the day, I think I wouldn't call myself an expert in this because I guess it's a completely new situation, a completely new challenge for every single one of us in this room. And I guess pretty much all of us would be seeking for inspiration to help us think about what we can do in this situation. And I'm looking to kind of help out and share my views and try to see whether there are anything we could do together. So thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Warren. So I think you're totally right in saying that it is really the critical time for all of us to come together and see what we can do all together, because one of us, like, if we only do our own stuff by ourselves, we're just so limited. There's just so much we can do, right? So I think if we come together, then we can do so much more than simply by ourselves. So right, so maybe now for that purpose, for all of us to know more about what we can do in this critical and sort of unprecedented moment. So maybe I'll ask them a few questions to Angelyn regarding ACS and how ACS deal with the situation and what sort of problems are faced by ACS. So the first question to Angelyn would be, so Angelyn, how have your ACS partners and clients been affected by the current coronavirus outbreak and economic downturn? Because ACS motto, or what you guys do essentially, is to serve those who serve, right? So for your partners and clients who have been serving the community, what sort of problems are they actually facing right now? Can you share more of that to us?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to. As Jesse mentioned, the survey that was published in the SCMP, I think actually on International Women's Day, on the 8th of March. So effectively, ACS has partnered with 7 other NGOs to survey our NGO sector to really see how people were suffering. And we effectively sent out the survey to about 2,000 NGOs. We received responses of about over 100. And between the 100 NGOs, they served collectively 1 million beneficiaries. The results that came back indicated that all the respondees had suffered a drop in funding. Then the question was, well, how much of a drop in funding? 63%, as Jesse mentioned, had experienced a reduction in funding of more than 30%. But out of that, almost 20% experienced a reduction of at least 70% of their funding, which is huge. And as a result of that funding, 77% of the respondees were not able to provide services to 30% of their service users. But more critically, 48% of the respondees were not able to support 70% of their users. And that effectively worked out at that time, this is back in February, to almost 450,000 beneficiaries not being able to receive the services. So that that survey actually really kind of rattled us because the figures were so large. You know, we didn't actually expect it to be so large. And given that impact, that's actually what then led us to form the lobby group to lobby the government. And I might maybe just talk a little bit about that now, Vincent, if that's okay. So we actually felt we didn't have anything to lose actually in lobbying the government. It's, I think in Hong Kong, you don't really hear very much about successful advocacy in the social sector. But as a result of that survey and the survey results, the 8 NGOs got together to lobby the government on behalf of the entire social sector. And effectively what we did was we wrote into the Secretary for Welfare to ask for a rebate in salaries that for all registered NGOs, a rebate of up to 6 months. And at the time when we went to meet him, it was after the first round of emergency funding that was announced. He essentially was not very hopeful that there would be any more emergency funding coming out. And he effectively told us, well, actually, because the first round of emergency funding had come out, unfortunately, social sector was not taken care of. It was only retail and other business sectors. Arts and culture was taken care of, but no one else from social sector. Effectively, his message was, don't get your hopes up that anything will come out from the government. You're better off looking to other sources like the Jockey Club and other private sources for funding. But when the second round of emergency funding was announced last Wednesday, we were actually very encouraged that, in fact, charities and social enterprises are now included. And effectively, anyone, any employer which has an MPF scheme, which has contributed to MPF, can effectively make a claim for up to $9,000 per employee over a space of 6 months. And that's like really good news. When we left the meeting with Secretary Law, he said to us, if there's a second round of emergency funding, I will push to get you included. So when it came out last week, that's what we're holding on to. That's our claim to fame. We're saying that the lobbying effort was successful. He did hear what we had to say, and he did remember to include us in this. So we were very happy with that.
Wow, that is terrific, with a lot of hard work and effort for that. Yes, but can I just ask? So say maybe say apart from getting government's help, or maybe perhaps trying to because ACS can lobby with the government, is maybe not all of the NGOs or social entrepreneurs might be able to do that for their more specific need, because in Hong Kong, social entrepreneurs and NGOs, they have specific focus, and they are in specific industry or in specific field. So apart from, say, engaging with the government, any sort of advice or any sort of ideas that you think maybe for the shorter term, how we can sort of help out each other or just help ourselves? Yeah, so yeah, maybe apart from government's help.
Yeah, so actually our next step as a task force flowed from Secretary Law initially telling us, sorry, there's no government funding, you know, go somewhere else and look. And what we did then as a task force was we drafted an open letter to funders, which we are actually going to make public in the next couple of weeks. And again, this is what we've done on behalf of the entire sector. It's not just for the small task force of 10 NGOs. This is an open letter to funders to encourage funders to consider flexible, multi-year, unrestricted funding, to be more flexible in the outlook and requirements of the grantees, to work closer with grantees, and potentially consider new NGOs to work with during this time, and effectively be in closer partnership, true, authentic partnership with with NGOs to get through this time. So that's something that we've done, which hopefully will be for the benefit of NGOs as well as social enterprises. And interestingly, I found out that Foundation of Shared Impact, which is David Bishop, was actually doing on behalf of social enterprises. So we've come together to collaborate and talk, what we can be doing to support each other's efforts.
Okay, so maybe coming together and really make something happen is way more powerful than one can imagine.
I think it definitely is. And, as we were talking earlier, this time is extremely challenging, but it has also given rise to a lot of opportunities for collaboration, which we're always encouraging our, fellow NGOs and also our corporate partners to consider. We've seen a fantastic example of successful collaboration just in this NGO task force. Amongst our NGO network, we're seeing a lot of small NGOs who work in the same sector, in the food sector or the mental health sector or the youth sector, coming together to see how they can support each other in their programs. Because like you said, funding is tight now for everybody. So if you can streamline programs, look to merge programs, save some costs that way, that's certainly something that people can be thinking about doing for sure.
Okay, thanks so much for the very helpful insight regarding the solutions to deal with the financial pressure that has been facing by almost all of the, not only the small, medium-sized, or even maybe the large-size NGOs and social enterprises and enterprise in Hong Kong. So thank you very much again for your insight.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So maybe now I'll pass on the time to ask Benita from Encompass Hong Kong to ask for a few questions regarding how Encompass Hong Kong has been affected by the current epidemic and economic downturn, because as I'm aware, Encompass Hong Kong do a lot of training and consultancy services, workshop and events, most of which are actually physical, most of which actually require participants to come out to gather the place. How do you guys, so what sort of problems have you guys been facing and how do you guys deal with it?
So as Vincent said, we are primarily a training and company. So we do a lot of experiential learning event from people getting together to talk about Male Ally or sustainable coffee. So that part of the indoor training has really been affected, but we have been experimenting with different ways. So before the social gathering rule was enforced, we have been doing more eco tours. We have been going to Lai Chi Wo, to Yim Tian Zai, to Hoi Ha, and that has been quite popular. We also do have tried more consultancy work that doesn't require us to do physical face-to-face. So we have been working with a coffee company and helping them to make their training curriculum more SDG. Other things that I've been working on is I do a lot more writing. So I've been, I can share here later, I've been written something on the UN SDGs in the Green Queen. So I think it's a good time for branding and just maybe some research work. So trying my best in these circumstances, but as Angelyn and Paul, like many of this, our training, we do have online training right now, that are paid workshop by company, but yes, I would say what our usual capacity is in terms of training. Yeah.
So do you think now might be actually a perfect time, even though it's sort of like it's not initiated by us, that now it might be a very good timing for us for organizations to slow down and sort of rethink what sort of value we have and how do we achieve such value, and whether there's actually a more diverse way to achieve such goal, and how do you do it? Do you do it about trial and error, or do you speak to other similar organizations? So how would you recommend us to do so? I
think it's a bit of trial and error, and I really I think I echo what Warren said earlier. I really believe in the power of collaboration. Because of the eco tour, one of the coding company, which is a commercial company for children learning youth code program, they actually come up to us and say, hey, we want to work on an education program with you together on SDG training and STEM education. with that. So we are able to use their database for marketing as well. So I think with especially now in here in the Zoom, we have over 70 people. Maybe there are resources that or database that people can share and cross promote. I think it's the power of networking. I really believe that, and especially for small NGOs that might not, or social enterprise that might not have as much of an exposure out there. I think to work with a stronger brand is a good idea.
Okay, thanks. So as you have mentioned, so Encompass Hong Kong focus a lot on experiential learning. So in the current situation, how can Encompass Hong Kong ensure that such experience, experiential by your audience are not severely affected, or how can you actually digitalize such experience for them?
I think many of us in here have tried different Zoom technique, different polling, interactive exercise. For example, next Wednesday on the day, I'll be doing a virtual tour on Hong Kong biodiversity with some really beautiful images of Hong Kong. Obviously, it's not the same as face-to-face, but I think it's the new normal, and we all need to try our best. And actually, so one of for Encompass, our motto is to donate to a charity for our workshop. So for example, if it's a sustainable coffee workshop, we'll be donating to Hummingfish Foundation, which works with Timor-Leste farmer. Because of this sharing model is quite hard now with the financial circumstances and all that. So we have actually changed our mode. So last week we collaborate with a brand called Luna Natural, which promote reusable menstrual cup. And the way we do it is matching. So cup sold, we raise, we donate a cup to a table of 2 cities, which is a group for helping refugees in Hong Kong. So I think the NGO, I know a lot of us here have different social mission, but I think maybe we'll need to change our KPI on how to measure impact. I know Jeff has done a great job in crowdfunding, and he'll have a lot to say later. But I think for some other thing, maybe like a matching program or different mode of social courses, I think that we can explore. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I do agree with that. Change of the mode and the KPI is crucial in dealing with the uncertainties in the world. But maybe my question to you is, because Encompass Hong Kong strives to keep reinvesting at least 60% of your net profit in achieving your social mission. So in light of the current financial pressure faced by Encompass Hong Kong, how do you make sure that even though while you're changing your mode and KPI, you keep making sure that your reinvestment of 60% of your profits remain unaffected, or basically how can you still keep in line with your higher mission or higher mission statement and vision?
Yeah, I do try to keep that 60% for our paid workshop. So for the corporate workshop, we do charge a higher amount so we can continue to make the donation to the charity. But for some workshops, I do now is more free, and as I said, in a matching scheme, so we can continue to work with different things. But I think right now it just need to be a bit more flexible in how we do it. But I try my best to keep that 60%.
Yeah, so okay, so maybe it's the how, but not the why and not the what that we do. And maybe we're going to talk more about how we can use design thinking to maybe think of the box and be more creative in dealing with the situation. So my last question for Benita. So how does Encompass Hong Kong keep promoting diversity and inclusion in the current situation? Has it been affected by the fact that you cannot physically reach out to people, or do you think it is not so much of a burden actually, as many of the discussion on diversity, inclusion, on equality can actually be communicated and be done online? So what would be your experience of it?
So actually earlier this year, we compiled a SDG calendar for all our clients and partner, and that include Earth Day, that include Idaho, that include like a Male Ally Day. So inform our clients and partner that there's a certain day that we can celebrate. And we are doing a paid workshop with one of the corporate on motherhood, on gender diversity. I think actually equality is more than ever important now in this virus. And I'm sure a lot of the panelists here work with disadvantaged group. They are disproportionately suffer. And I think that there's still a demand, and I have seen great articles why D&I now important than ever. So we basically can include the talents of the different groups. So we are able to do the D&I work as we did, and I'm working on a piece which should be published later next week. Is on SDG inequality and how that is exacerbated right now with the virus in Hong Kong. Yeah, maybe Jessie can send out to the group earlier, and that's my view on the D&I situation right now in Hong Kong.
Okay, so flexibility is really the key. Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much for sharing, Benita. So next, may I ask about some of the questions regarding Impact Hong Kong, and from Jeff. Jeff, you can actually you can also take the chance to talk about your other NGO, Love Foundation as well, if you think it's appropriate anytime. I'm all would love to hear more of both of the NGOs. So, at Impact Hong Kong, so can you please tell us more about the amazing fundraising campaign where you guys raised Hong Kong dollars 641,000 within only 3 days for providing urgent safe living spaces for Hong Kong homeless people. So I'm aware that the reason you guys did is because there's been a government policy, because the McDonald's in Hong Kong actually shut down or they didn't do the 24/7 opening time during the coronavirus back then, and then as a result of that, the so-called Mac refugees cannot find a place to live in. So what can you tell us more of your experience of it, and what would be your tips for creating and executing such a successful, impactful fundraising campaign in such a short time?
Yeah, you guys saw that. You saw that fundraise. It was a crazy ride. It was actually I haven't told people this story. I know Charlotte, who's in here as well, she's a colleague with ImpactHK. I think she knows about this, but yeah, no, it just was a normal day, a normal crazy day with ImpactHK at work. I was on my way home on the MTR, and then I started getting messages of McDonald's is going to close. McDonald's is going to close. I started getting, I don't know, it was like 5 people writing me saying McDonald's is going to close. And then I had a friend of mine say, I'd want to help. I mean, we should do a crowdfunding campaign for this. And I'm like, I thought about it. I was like, oh, the last crowdfunding campaign I did was kind of a flop. And then I have had a good one in the past, but yeah, it was, so I got home probably around 10 p.m. I wrote it in about 40 minutes, maybe 30. I nailed it out, sent it to my good friend at SparkRaise, Yoni, she's amazing at SparkRaise. She got it on. It came on, got it on right there at 3 a.m. I think it came out that same night. And yeah, it was exciting watching the donations come in. I think it was successful because it was such a relevant topic, right? It was really, it shouldn't even be news that McDonald's is closing. I mean, they're just taking precautions because of this virus, but they're just, it's a huge story because you have like 400 people, right, sleeping in a fast food restaurant who now have to go out in the streets and find a place to sleep. I mean, it's heartbreaking. And it's completely unacceptable. And I think it's been really a time, of course, where we're all facing these challenges. A lot of people working from home, a lot of people getting sick, a lot of people, afraid, losing their jobs. It's a really challenging time. And then you also see so many caring people coming to the forefront. I mean, the amount of people that email us every single day with ImpactHK wanting to find, how can we help? What can I do? It's a little bit overwhelming for us sometimes because my emails are just like ding, ding, ding. People are so caring in Hong Kong. It's a really caring city. And at times of, adversity like this, where you have these struggles in society or issues like this virus, it does actually bring out incredible opportunities, and I think ImpactHK, we've kind of capitalized off of our incredible caring base of volunteers, like 5,000 volunteers we've had. It's just really a unique charity. And I think this crowdfunding campaign was just a testament to how awesome our volunteers are and how caring people in Hong Kong are.
So what do you think would be the biggest determining factor for your ability or Impact Hong Kong's ability to actually create such a positive, powerful impact in such a short time? So what do you think would be the key in doing that?
Well, you know, we say we're going to do it and we do it. I mean, we are a charity getting results. I mean, yes, that was incredible, you know, over 600K, almost $700,000 raised, you know, in those 3 days. And we did, you know, since then, in the last 2 weeks, we've now housed 50 individuals off the streets. You know, we have almost 70 homeless people in hotels right now in total that we are taking care of. You know, we get results. You know, we got 2 people into shelter yesterday. We got 2 more people today. And, you know, every single day now, we are attacking. We're working hard. We have a great team now, and we're really, really focused on results. And I think, you know, a lot of that in building a base of volunteers, I think a lot of that's in storytelling. I've been quite active in a bit of a Facebook whore, you know, getting on Facebook and putting the hours in, but also really making sure that, you know, our supporters and our volunteers really understand who are we, you know, what is really the driving force of ImpactHK, and it's really our heart, and it really is, you know, a smart program as well. So that's why we get good results, I think.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, I'm sure like not only me, but actually a lot of the people are very impressed by the fundraising campaign and the positivity and the impact that it has generated to those in need. So actually, apart from the fundraising campaign, can I ask more about Impact Hong Kong? So as we know, Impact Hong Kong does a lot of physical work and physical workshops to those homeless people outside Hong Kong. So this question might be similar to the question I've asked Benita in the past just then, and that is, as Impact Hong Kong's work, a lot of them are actually done physically outside. So has there been any problems or limitations that Impact has to deal with? For example, because Impact does a lot of programs like the kindness walk, the guest room, the counseling, the screen program, mentorship, etc. So if with the government policy and with the coronavirus concern that not like, because physical activity, if they have to be limited, so what would be the solutions that you guys have?
Yeah, we're a charity, you know, we're on the streets every night. So we're in, you know, with our kindness walks, which is really our bread and butter. That's how we started as a charity, is, you know, going out on the streets and just showing care and kindness to the homeless outside. And, you know, that's our bread and butter activity, and we still maintain that. You know, we still are doing 2 or 3 every single night in different locations. You know, we've adapted, we have smaller groups now, but we don't stop that. You know, we can't really stop that. You know, because, you know, if we don't serve these individuals, they just won't eat. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's difficult. I mean, I understand, you know, the stay at home, you got to stay at home, and that's worked. That's been a great thing. But, you know, as a charity that's dedicated to working with the homeless and the street cleaners, you know, and the elderly on the streets, I mean, you know, if we don't help them, you know, they just won't eat. And, you know, especially during this time, we have the homeless who already have poor immune systems, lack of nutrition, lack of sleep, stress, you know, everything. You know, it's really important that somebody's there. So what's happened is that, you know, we have actually increased our output. So now we used to, before the virus outbreak, we always served 3 meals a day, every single day. We never stopped, right? But before the virus, we were serving about 70 people. 70 people in our center would come every single day for each meal. And yesterday we had 300 people for dinner, you know, 300 people. It's an incredible scene. And, you know, a lot of people are kind of like, oh, what about social distancing? And it's a challenge. We're trying our best, but at the end of the day, you know, these individuals are not really afraid of the virus. They have nothing really to lose. A lot of them have given up. A lot of them have much greater fears than this virus. And at the end of the day, you know, we've, you know, had that gathering of food, which gives them happiness, and it's enabled us to get to know these individuals better, and that's gotten many of them into shelter. Yeah, it's been a really incredible thing, and during this time, like I say, we have so many people reaching out. I mean, we have the Peninsula Hotel providing lunch for us 7 days a week for 2 months. So they come out, they rock up in their Peninsula van with the French, you know, chef coats and the entourage and a couple of suits, and they bring in lunch every single day for us. I've got Rosewood Hotel now reaching out. They want to provide dinners for a month. I've got, I think it's the Marriott as well. It's unbelievable. You know, so many people are caring, and I think as a charity and also as social enterprises, you have to really understand that this is actually a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity. We're sitting at home and they reflect on life and they're thinking, what can I do? And if you can provide a great opportunity for them to help, that will be meaningful and impactful. Yeah, it's a great opportunity for all of you.
Yeah, I really like the fact that you're treating it not as like a hopeless situation, but as an opportunity to be more flexible and see what we can do in the current situation. And maybe some of these things that you have encountered due to the virus, due to the lockdown, due to the economic downturn, wouldn't have happened without all of these things. So maybe it is right that with every risk, there will be opportunity. So, but apart from using our own effort, do you think whether there's anything we can do for the homeless people from the government side, and if there is anything that the government can do, what Impact Hong Kong can do, or from Hong Kong's role, is there anything that Impact Hong Kong can do with the government, such as say lobbying with them or co-creating something with them?
It's a good question. I mean, I applaud ACS, incredible work on behalf of, you know, small NGOs in Hong Kong, Hands on Hong Kong, Kelly Support Group, and the other, you know, 5 other NGOs that really made that happen. That's an incredible accomplishment. And the way that they worked in, you know, reaching out to the government and making, you know, the press releases and everything, the way they did that was outstanding. I think it's very difficult to get this government to listen. They're not really known as incredible listeners, are they? It's a challenge, and they succeeded where I think I personally would have not succeeded. I think they did an outstanding job. I've thought a lot about government support. A lot of people will always ask you if you have an NGO. You know, always, do you get government support? I used to get asked that all the time. You know, it's one of my. I love the question and I hate it. Right? Do I attack the government, tell them how much I hate them, or what? You know, my board of directors are always sweating when I get that question. But no, it's an interesting one. When you are on the streets like we are as a charity every night working with the homeless, you see measures that this government does that are cruel, right? You see measures that this government does to the homeless that absolutely results in further death. I mean, we see this government investing millions of dollars in basically telling people who are severely in pain with mental illness, who are hurting at the lowest of the lows, and they invest millions of dollars in telling those individuals to just go somewhere else. We don't care. And that's just unacceptable. Now, do I want to work with those people? No, I don't. You know, I mean, they have to really prove to us, I think, that they care about the homeless. And that's not just through saying, oh, you can come and apply for money. You know, if they say to us, you know, hey, Jeff, you know, this is a great application, you can go and apply. We tried. We looked at this application that we were sent, you know, and as a small NGO, that application was very daunting. It was a really, really overwhelming amount of, you know, basically, just an incredible amount of paperwork. And the funding that we wanted was 100% just for food, you know, and all we wanted to do was get money to help us with the increased amount of meals that we serve every day before these beautiful hotels stepped up. And we weren't asking for electrical bills. We weren't asking for salaries. It was 100% food. And then you have to, how do you measure the impact of that food? Or, you know, how do you know who it's going to? Well, you know, I don't really want to put on paperwork begging this government to understand that individual that I know extremely well who has mental illness on the streets is hurting. I'd rather invest my time personally in just getting stuff done. And that's what we did. You know, during the time that McDonald's was closing, a lot of initial comments were, oh, you talk to the government, you should rally your district counsellors. And you know, and the very next day we got, I think it was 12 people into shelter the very next day, you know, and that's results, you know. And I think the government really has a responsibility to, you know, up their game. You know, they should be the ones contacting NGOs that are doing a great job. They should be the ones having a team in between NGOs and the government, and that team, that's a government funded team. They're the ones who work with each charity. They're the ones who kind of work with the application process. They're the ones who assess, what does this charity need? This is a great charity that's getting results. Let me see how I can work with that. And they do that running. How could you ask a small NGO with just a few employees? You know, we serve 5,000 meals a week, you know, and, you know, how can you ask us to go through those hoops? It'd be crushing for us. And in the end, would we even get the money? I don't know. So I'm a bit, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I'm kind of torn. So right now, yeah, I kind of like just kind of slashing down the government a bit, but we'll see what happens in the future. I, of course, want to see policy change. I want to see, you know, I want to work with the government. That's how you can get the big results. That's going to really change Hong Kong. So I want that. But I think right now, at this part of our stage as a charity, that's just not going to be our priority.
Yeah, I guess it is the very true but sad fact that government is the biggest player in Hong Kong, like at least one of the biggest players in Hong Kong. But then surely there's so many things that they can do, but they haven't been doing it. And it is maybe largely due to the mindset which cannot be changed in a short time. So I really admire the fact that even though this you cannot just change the system overnight, you're still planning to see what you can do, what you can execute, what you can action. So I think it is maybe in the short term, action is the key. Maybe like relying on ourselves in the short term might be the key, but yes. So I think this actually can be reflected by the fact that your fundraising campaign happens just in 3 days, and then it helps so many people. So I really, really admire that. So I think it's amazing. Yes. So thank you very much for sharing.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, thanks, Jeff. Yeah. So now can I please ask Warren from the Good Lab for a few questions regarding how Good Lab has been affected by the current situation. So Good Lab does a lot of social consulting, innovation trainings. So in the past, I know you guys normally does it either in-house or does it physically with your clients. So how has the current situation been affecting you guys, and what has been the strategy and what has been your strategy in dealing with it?
Sure, thank you for the question, Vincent. I guess my story is pretty much day-to-day business story, really. As some of you are aware, we do a lot of consulting work and training work, which require physical presence. I guess, although we are not in the most, worst hit industry in Hong Kong, such as catering and retail, but we are also experiencing a hard time right now because a lot of our training work, for example, has to be delayed or cancelled in the end. A lot of the public engagement work as part of our consultancy projects are not being delivered because people obviously are anxious about the situations. There are government regulations about how many people can gather in a room, etc., etc. So we are experiencing a lot of delay in the work that we are doing, hence delay in getting paid by our partners or clients, and hence cash flow issues, which I'm sure many of us are experiencing right now. I guess to us, the most challenging bit is about the stakeholder engagement. What we are, or what we have been advocating in all of our work, is about having a close proximity with the users or the citizens. And this epidemic or virus situation has made that very, very difficult for us. Obviously, we've been trying to switch a lot of the ways we do things online and digitally, but I'm going to share a little bit more kind of the insights that we've been getting. But I guess all in all, a lot of our work that are being done are not kind of being, I would say, properly done on time, on a timely basis. And on the other hand, the team internally, I think we are also experiencing kind of a new management structure and empowerment model, as well as how we can work together as a team. we have a dozen people on our team, and we're trying to figuring out how to work remotely together is the best way going forward. And all these are new learnings for us. In a way, it is, you know, it is challenge, but on the other hand, they are also opportunities for us to kind of experience or explore kind of new ways of doing things. And those are kind of the problems that we're facing from a business perspective as well.
Yeah, so in coming up with new ways of doing things, I'd like to know more about the process that Good Lab has sort of coming up with such new way of doing things, because is it done by trial and error, or do you guys actually use your design thinking model and to basically innovatively turn your risks into your opportunities? If that is the case, can you share more about such mindset to us so that maybe all of us can actually learn from how you transform your organization, not only just for COVID-19 and economic downturn. So basically, as you mentioned, Good Lab in the past is a co-working space, and there has been 2 phases of transition.
Yeah.
And can you tell us more how you can actually do that, how you can change yourself in light of the environment?
Right. So it's a great question, Vincent. I guess, you know, we are doing it by trial and error right now. I think every day is a new day, and pretty much every 2 days there's a new regulation coming out from the government. So I guess, you know, what I'm going to suggest or what I'm going to share is just, you know, my personal or my team's experience, but I hopefully serve as useful reference for kind of the participants today in this room. But I believe there's no one-size-fits-all approach. But essentially, you know, there are a couple of things that we've been trying to do. One aspect is about, you know, the external engagement that we've been doing to resolve, you know, the cash flow issues, the delay progress issues that I talked about. We've been trying to speak directly and, you know, realistically and practically with our clients and partners as well, to pretty much asking for things. For example, advance payments, for example, flexibility around how we can manage our projects, how the progress of the project are being monitored by our funders and clients. I think these are really practical things that we've been trying to do. And obviously, you know, there are clients who are willing to listen and help out. There are other clients who are not that keen to do that because they are personal, perhaps they are also suffering from the issues as well. So that's one of the things that we're doing is to be bold and trying to ask for things that we need. And on the other hand is to explore new ways of doing our engagement, like I mentioned before. Obviously, Zoom is a very practical tool that we've been using it kind of on a daily basis. There are other things that we are trying to use, other applications such as Miro that we are trying to use to help us do brainstorming online, to help us do focus group online with our clients. But having all these, you know, practical things, all these things kind of transferred online require a lot of thinking about changing a lot of methodologies and design of some of our work. And that required the team and myself to be kind of sitting together remotely, perhaps thinking about, you know, and be empathetic about people who are experiencing those kind of new ways of co-creation. And that brings out, you know, one of the key learning I have in the last 2 months is to be empathetic and to be able to listen to people. I guess, you know, I'm sure a lot of the organization are doing a lot of great things to help with the situation, but, you know, looking at myself, looking at the organization I'm kind of leading, I think being empathetic and to listen to my colleagues, my coworker, as well as the stakeholders we've been engaging with in order to find the best way to engage with them is something that, you know, we have noticed and realized and we'll be doing as a principle of the things that we're going to do. And that's kind of wrap up, you know, the external stuff we're doing. Now, looking internally, we're also trying to kind of adapt to the challenges that we are facing. But first of all, I think we are having a relatively more quiet time in general, I would say. Obviously, we are having financial pressure on our books, but, a lot of our work are being delayed because we are not able to engage with people or meet with our clients. We are now sort of using this time to actually try to equip ourselves with a lot of, I would say, for example, internal training or kind of internal knowledge development sessions within the team to actually start building us, resilience and new knowledge about, what we think are the things that are going to happen in the aftermath of COVID-19 and things that we should be looking at in order to prepare for us to be, to be better, to be a better social innovation consultant, to be a better social enterprises in the next couple of months. Obviously, it doesn't really help with, the immediate challenges that we are having in the next 2 to 3 weeks. But I guess it's really important to be optimistic and also to be able to think about the future and how we can fit in the new normal. Because the new normal and the new power dynamics is what we have all been talking about and what we will be experiencing in the next couple of months. That's one kind of major internal things that we are doing. On the practical level, obviously, we've been doing a lot of project replanning, company replanning about, how we're going to manage, the delay in our progress of our projects, as well as, how we're going to work together still efficiently, even though we're not in the same place as a team. So a lot of replanning is going on right now in my team at Good Lab to try to maximize the efficiency and try to maximize the resources we still have right now in order to manage the work that foresee coming in the next couple of months. I guess that's kind of the internal things that we've been doing, but I guess to be able to be in the positions ready for kind of future challenges is kind of the principle that we are working towards.
Yeah, so I'd like to focus on the future, or as you have mentioned, the aftermath of the virus or economic downturn. So what do you think? Can you share more with us? What do you mean by the aftermath? What would be the bigger problems that our society have to face, apart from the COVID-19 epidemic, the physical lockdown, the physical social distancing, because that would not happen forever, right? But then what would be the aftermath? And you mentioned the new normal, the power dynamics. Can you share more of that with us? And what would be your suggested solution or your insight in dealing with it, or in better equipping ourselves to deal with the new normal?
Sure. What we've been realizing against the social unrest in 2019 and the current sort of health crisis we're experiencing now. Vincent, you talked about inclusive design. I guess the new normal that we are going for is to be able to leverage inclusive design, or what I call, what Good Lab calls participatory design. I think there is a global movement or regional movement in Asia Pacific to move towards what I call participatory design, meaning having citizens or youth empowered to be able to co-create together and generate better services, better products, as well as policies in order to meet the needs, the true needs of communities and people in Hong Kong or in our society. Now, based on what we had experienced last year and what we have seen right now, we see actually in Hong Kong, for example, a lot of people are willing and are capable from the civil society to actually work on a lot of initiatives to help with the problems that we are facing in Hong Kong. We no longer rely on a single massive stakeholder, for example, the government or the business world to help us. From a civil society perspective, tonight, we heard about a lot of great stories from Jeff, from Angelyn, from Benita as well. And we also heard about a lot of great story from the business world about producing face masks themselves and distributing them themselves. Now, I guess that's what I call the new normal, is to leverage a so-called participatory design or participatory involvement from the society, from people in the society, and leverage their resources, talents, and skills to the betterment of our society. And that's what we've been kind of looking at right now in the next 2-3 years in the aftermath of COVID-19. And how are we going to capture that? Now, I think being able to realize what organizations, what individuals are capable of bringing onto the table is the first thing, is to build the mutual understanding, for example, within the social innovation ecosystem, in order to figure out what we can, as an ecosystem or as a group, we can work together for particular objectives or for particular initiative or projects. Now that's the first thing I guess we are looking to do. And from a Good Lab perspective, what we've been planning is to actually think about, how we can actually establish alliances with a cross-sector presence of organizations with different expertise to come together and work on various policy-making projects as well as social innovation projects. And that's what I mean by, having a more strategic thinking to bring innovation to our society through more of a cross-sector collaboration approach. And obviously, we talk about design thinking a lot, but what I say is design thinking is just a tool. I guess my ultimate takeaway is that we are probably better off with valuing the underpinning spirit, which is user-centered design and collaboration underneath that big umbrella of design thinking to help us think about, what we can do leveraging the so-called new power, aka decentralized structural approach in order to work on social innovation.
So yes, thank you very much for your sharing. I think maybe the key here, which at least from the sharing from the 4 panelists, I can actually find a common theme, and that is that we have to be flexible, as changes does not always come from top down, from the government to us. We cannot be passive. We can be more active. We can take the chance. We see the opportunity to create cross-sector bottom-up impact together. So I think this is the key message that I've got from the panel discussion. As to how we do it, Jeff did it through fundraising, through quick action and perfect execution. Angelyn did it through public lobbying, taking initiative in dealing with the government. Benita did it through being flexible, through collaborating with more and a wider variety of organizations that they haven't thought of collaborating in the past. So I think all of them have their own way of being flexible and creative and dealing with the situation. So I'm sure all of us have learned a great lesson or get a lot of practical tips from you guys regarding how we can survive and thrive in the current COVID-19 epidemic and economic downturn. So maybe I'll just throw out a question to the 4 of you for a general question. If any one of you would like to give it a try, or just to perhaps just to give it a bit of brainstorming, by all means be my guest. So that would be my question. So is there any tips that you would like to offer to our social entrepreneurs and NGO leaders and founders here, most of whom are perhaps a bit anxious or worried in the current situation from the resulting uncertainties, financial pressures, limitations of service delivery, both from a personal or organizational level? I know maybe your advice to us doesn't necessarily have to be a practical execution plan. It could be anything from like a high level mindset or anything. So yes.
Okay, I'll give it a go first. I think in this current situation, what we have found in dealing with our NGO, peer NGOs, and as well as our corporate partners, is it is critically important for the leader of the organization to first make sure that he or she is taking care of himself. So it might sound a little waffly, it might not be what you're expecting from this webinar, but it is really, really, really important to make sure that you're getting enough support, that you're not stressed all the time. Vincent, you'll be really familiar with this. You've got to be in a good place mentally in order to be able to look after yourself, your team. The team is relying on you, and the organization. Because honestly, if you're not able to lead in a good manner, it's not going to be for the benefit of your organization. Will the organization still be able to pursue its mission and vision if the leader is not in a good place? I think that's something that has become critically clear to us just in dealing with peer NGOs in the past couple of months, particularly because we're now all online. Make sure you've got time for exercise, sleep, good food, all the rest of it. The other, I guess, elephant in the room that everyone talks about or may not talk enough about is funding and how you get enough funding at this time. It's both emergency bridging funding, as well as, to Warren's point, now we're also looking to steer NGOs towards thinking about what happens post-COVID. We're not talking about something that's going to be gone in 3 to 6 months. It's now a global pandemic. It's going to be with us for 12 to 18 months. So in looking to get funding, you're talking about not just the funding that'll take you through for the next 3 to 6 months. You've also got to start planning for what happens in 12 to 18 months. And that's quite a different paradigm altogether. In terms of funding sources, obviously look to your existing funders, but also consider reaching out to your previous funders. Get your board members engaged as well in helping out at this crunch time. Everybody's in it together. It's for the survival and the sustainability of the organization. Getting the resources, both monetary support, venue sponsorship, whatever works. Getting funding and looking to creative ways to cut expenses.
Thank you, Angelyn. I think this is really helpful from a very general, but also a specific perspective. So I think it is a very, very, really, I am like, honestly speaking, like both a holistic and comprehensive advice to all of us. Thanks.
Cool. I guess I can share a little bit my advice as well. I wouldn't say advice, but my personal takeaway, which are more emotional in a way. I guess, we probably understand, where we are, and I do personally understand the challenges that many of us are facing right now. But, I guess my message is you're not alone. Now, I guess we are also fighting this battle together to ensure that our social purpose organization can survive this. And what I've been doing myself, which I think is pretty helpful, I'd like to share with you, is to try to perhaps get together with some fellow organizations. If you are a social enterprise leader, try to get together with several, social enterprise leaders as well to talk about the issues and share learnings in this. I personally have found this pretty helpful, and to kind of to get an understanding about what other organizations are experiencing, how they are dealing with it. If you cannot find somebody, you can find me. I'm more than happy to kind of exchange that with you. I think emotionally that's very important. The second, more sentimental, suggestions that I have is to keep your optimism. Obviously, we are doing everything we can on a day-to-day basis to solve our business issues. But I guess mentally, I think we need to be optimistic, because I guess it has a lot of impact on the team, especially for social enterprise leaders. If you're leading a team, having an optimism is very important. And I would say nobody likes to follow a pessimist when it comes to challenges like this. So I would urge you to kind of focus, and I will be focusing mine as well, but be optimistic and try to talk to your fellow social entrepreneurs and practitioners in the sector. It might help you and get you inspired. So that's my sort of emotional suggestions.
Yeah, I'll follow up on things. It's a time where you can really seize great opportunities. You have a lot of individuals at home, And, you know, yes, of course, you know, leadership, you don't want your leader to go crazy. I'm on the verge, you know, but the reason I'm able to maintain and I'm still alive is because I have an incredible team. And, you know, this is a time where you can build a team. You know, it's quite easy to reach. One thing with this Zoom I've quite enjoyed is that I don't have to go on into Central and have this meeting for, you know, 30, 45 minutes with the ooh la 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 la, and I can get it all done efficiently through Zoom. I'm quite enjoying that. I kind of like, I'm not sure if my privacy is being invaded right now, but I'm quite enjoying this online thing. It's very efficient. And, you know, I think this is a time you build a team, and also it's a really good opportunity to build alliances. And I think both Love 21 and Impact HK, I think this holistic part in charities, and I think in everything you do, you have to think in that type of holistic manner if you want to create change. And this is a time where you should be strengthening your charity, strengthening your social entrepreneurship or your company, and really, really focusing on just getting your product right. You know, get it strong, work hard, you know, be flexible. I think that's a key. You have to adapt. And if you can adapt well as a charity or as a company, you know, if you can adapt well during these times, you're going to really flourish because you're going to be ahead of the game. But you can't, you know, like you said, you can't do that alone. You need a team. And this is a great opportunity to build a team.
I just have a small thing to add to what Jeff and Warren and Angelyn say. For me, I work with a lot of corporates, and I know getting funding now might be difficult from them, but I think they do offer a lot of pro bono help, and that could be legal help, that could be accounting help, that could be, I know UBS has a great social support program for NGO and SE, and I think while those are not cash donation, those jobs does take quite a bit of money. And for example, one of the corporate I work with, they also offer me a digital marketing help and copywriting. So I think it's good to take advantage of different opportunity and just to build the network. So I think to keep the door open, and that might lead to funding, hopefully at some point. But yes, we need to keep our optimism high.
Thank you all. So I think upon hearing this, it is very, very motivating, and I'm sure we can all deal with such situation together as a community. So maybe now we move on to the Q&A session. So the first question from the audience would be to Jeff. So the question is, how do you practically manage thousands of volunteers during these peak times? Do you have any sort of concrete management tactics or any tech tools to support this? Yes.
Well, we have an amazing alliance. I mean, Hands On Hong Kong are, you know, we wouldn't be able to do what we do without their partnership. You know, even from the very beginning, you know, I can't remember how long we've been working with now. We just turned 3 years old as a charity. And they've been with us, I think, for about pushing to 2 years. And, you know, the work that they do in supporting us and supporting other charities has been huge. The sign-up portal that they have, you know, so all of that admin work has really been taken off our shoulders. So when we have our volunteering activities, it's quite a simple thing. I think we've kind of spotted a need, right? That people in Hong Kong want to help. They want to do something that's impactful and meaningful. You know, I kind of think of 3 things when I work with volunteers. I think of, you know, I want to make it easy. I don't want it to be this huge application. I don't want to know your birth sign. You know, I just want you to, you know, you come out, you want to help. You don't need a degree to pass food to a need, you know, and we've made volunteering quite easy. The sign-up system with Hands On Hong Kong and through us is quite a simple process. Volunteers come, they meet, a volunteer leader takes them on a walk, and you show kindness to the homeless and the street cleaners. And it's quite an easy process. But secondly, it's very meaningful. You know, you see the person you're helping. You get to have that interaction, and it's, you know, it's not like other charities that work with the homeless either. We're not forcing anything. We don't photograph them. It's a genuinely meaningful act, and it's pure. And I think that's why volunteers really appreciate it. And then you get volunteers who really want to take it up a notch. And one thing I focus on when working with those types of volunteers is I want to give them ownership. I want to give them an opportunity to own something, and then they can use their passions and talents and love to basically run with it. For example, our walk leaders who do walks every night, you know, like tonight, you know, in Yamate. I have a walk leader in Yamate, and this is an individual who does that walk every single week, and that's his walk. That's his style. I don't really have to go in there and tell him, oh, you got to say this, you got to do this. And, he owns it. And because he has a great heart, and because he's passionate about the cause, and because he knows HK as well, it results in him loving it. And that's why he's been doing that for over 2 years. So I think, those kind of are three things I really think about when working with volunteers. And I encourage you guys to kind of consider, how can you make your volunteers to sign up easy, and how can you give them the most meaningful experience, because it is their time after all.
Okay. So I'd like to raise a quick follow-up question. So how do you, or what would be the advice you give to all of us regarding finding strong, amazing alliance? Because if we do everything by ourselves, then it will be a lot harder than having an amazing alliance that you mentioned.
Yeah, we've got great alliances with ImpactHK. Hands on Hong Kong. We've got Soap Cycling. We've got Redress for Clothing, Crossroads Foundation, Feeding Hong Kong, Food Link. It's an amazing alliance. We're starting to get to the point where we really want to align with other charities working with the homeless. That's the challenge. How do you align with people that are doing the same thing as you? Because you've got this kind of competition. I'm quite competitive myself, but I'm meeting with these individuals and seeing how we can help. And I just met with a great charity working with the homeless that I really want to work with more. And I think that's a bit more of a challenge. But no, I think this is a time. This is a time you should be setting up phone calls. You should set up Zoom calls. You should be reaching out, thinking about your holistic program. When you start thinking about a holistic program with an NGO or a company, and you look at the wings of that program with us, counseling, clothing, mentorship, sports, it's very easy when you start putting those wings out to understand, okay, in sports, who could you work with? We work with Love 21 Foundation, we work with Mini Sport, we work with Bounce Limit, we work with Calibrate by Stephanie, we work with these individuals. So I think when you start putting that holistic program, the pieces will come together on who you should really align with, or at least approach and have a conversation.
Okay, so another question would be, how do you find and reach out to, this time not alliance or or organization, but the so-called partners? So you mentioned about some of the hotels and corporates willing to actually supporting your higher goal in achieving your goal together. So how do you manage to get connected with them? I'm sorry, Jeff, sorry, yeah, you, thanks a lot, Jeff. You may have to start again.
I'm on mute.
Okay, you're good now.
All right, cool. Basically, because our base is so big, with that, we work with 20 schools a year right now, so all of those kids have parents, you've got a really big alliance, all these volunteers, these 5,000 volunteers, they all have corporates they work for. So it really has spread. And that has enabled us to basically, we never approached the peninsula, right? They've approached us, Rosewood approached us. And I think they approached us really because of that huge reach that we have, and also because we get results. And yeah, it's difficult. How do you, because it's a really time-consuming thing, I think, to go and start applying for applications on partnerships with all the hotels in Hong Kong, and hopefully one of them does it. I don't think it's probably the best investment of your time. I just suggest, you want to get your product right, you want to get your service right, and you want to get results, and you want to make sure that people understand the story behind those and how that actually is making an impact. And then after that, I think then those people will reach out.
So focusing on your product while keeping hard and put a lot of effort in letting people know your product, perhaps. Yeah, okay, but I think it's really tough work, right?
Well, it's a grind. Yeah. Work hard, I mean, I personally, I love this, right? I mean, I love my job, and I work really, really hard. I used to think an 8-hour day was long. I do, easily 14 hours a day now without a break, and I love it. I really love this work, and I think that's, but it is hard work, and if you really want to take it off, you got to work hard.
That's amazing. Thanks, Jeff. So to Angelyn, so with the changing political policy, how have your clients, partners, managed to conduct their ongoing or new campaigns since the beginning of the pandemic?
So I can see the questions from Fred. Did you mean clients as in our NGO clients? Because sorry, might be a bit slow this evening. I don't quite follow the question. How have our NGOs managed to conduct their ongoing or new campaigns, as in fundraising campaigns, or?
Yes, NGO first.
Pardon?
Fred mentioned in the chat is NGOs.
It's NGOs. In terms of, well, I think the biggest, like I said, the biggest challenge we've seen from our NGO, peer NGOs, is the lack of funding at this point. Almost everyone is facing a cash flow crunch. There's also been a reduction in the number of volunteers who are able to come out. Many times, including for ACS programs, it's all gone online now, so there isn't really a need for us for volunteers. But we know that with the volunteers who are coming out from corporates, corporate positions are such that they can't endorse mass excursions by their employees to go out to volunteer. So certain NGOs which require a lot of hands and feet on the ground, particularly those in the food sector, which rely on volunteers to deliver, food parcels, food packs, for example, to the beneficiaries. They've had to be really creative in coming up with different ways of delivering the food parcels, for example, to their beneficiaries. Other examples would be with the youth programs. Some of our NGO partners who are in youth-focused programs, again, have not been able to go out to reach out, physically meet with the youths because schools are closed. They've been closed for the past 3 months. A lot of that has gone online. I guess, fortunately, most teenagers now will have a phone, so a lot of the support and the counseling has gone online. But for smaller kids, younger kids who usually would be coming out to meet, in sports programs outside, that's not happening. It's difficult to get in touch with kids who are in, I guess, the poorer communities because they don't have phones. It's not easy to get in touch with them or to even, call them. Those have been very challenging for our peer NGOs to reach out to. And there's actually a growing concern that particularly with the youth and school children who come from the poorer communities and who are now stuck with online school in very, very small accommodation flats, a lot of them in subdivided units. There's a lot of concern now that there's going to be a huge mental health issue and challenge going forward. I think some of the NGOs see that that's already happening, but it's just going to increase. And for those who are focused on working with youth, they've had to probably, do a little bit of adaptation to their programs. It's not just now reaching out to support kids in sport or in youth activities. They've now had to also focus on getting counseling support and reaching out to people like Vincent and others in that particular sector to see how they can collaborate and provide more support for their own beneficiaries. Mm-hmm. So I guess the takeaway is that NGOs are still pushing forward, to deliver their product and to deliver their service as best as they can. It's been quite difficult for many of them because of the cash flow situation and also because volunteer numbers are down.
Yeah, thank you very much for your insight. So unfortunately, due to time constraint, we might not be able to cater all the questions, but Jessie and I will make sure these questions will be answered by our group together or by the panel after the webinar. So may I please ask Jessie to come in to introduce the breakout session, and this will be the end of the first part of the panel discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. It's a very fruitful discussion, and what we want to create is really a sense of community that we understand we're in this together. So even after this panel discussion, after this webinar, we will create the platform for anybody who still have the questions to follow up, so that we make sure those who are facing the challenges can get timely support from those who has the resources. So now the game plan is we have a few paired up mentorship sessions, and each session are tackling some specific aspects of the challenges we're facing. So for example, Jeff is an expert in very hands-on operation and fundraising, and we have for example, Warren is a very experienced in cross-sector collaboration and design thinking. So each group will have 2 mentors. So if you have been assigned and you signed up, and you will be meeting your mentors, and you'll be it's your chance to actually ask the questions and have meaningful discussion and your takeaway from this webinar. But if you haven't signed up to the mentorship session, this will be the end of the program, unfortunately. But we'll be sending you all the recording, and our conversation will be continuing on the different platform. And we hope this will be a community that what Warren mentioned, really getting people together, understanding we're working on the same social issues. So before we end the session, I really want to give a huge thanks to all our amazing partners. And also, this is not just to promoting them, but also for you guys to know who are the people who are actually working in the social impacts. And yeah, I really love to give some acknowledgement to them. So that includes, we have Impact Hong Kong, Encompass Hong Kong, the Good Lab, Asian Charity Services, W Hub, Angel Hub. We have Good Post, Dream Impact, Social Entrepreneur Meetup, of course, the Good City Foundations, HeartChat team, and a lot more. So do reach out if you need more collaboration, more partnership, and this is the community for you guys to create more values collaboratively. So now thank you so much again for our panelists, an amazing discussion, and we'll be sending to everybody the follow-up email about a forum or a group that will continue our discussion. And now let's have our breakout session where you have the chance to interact directly with our mentors. So after the breakout session, which is 25 minutes, we'll come back to the main session to have a report session. So we just talk about your key takeaway as volunteers, your key takeaway, and then that will be the end of our program. So yeah, let's have our breakout session if our HeartChat team can facilitate. And thank you again, everybody, for your patience and your attendance. Thank you very much.